listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
Wow, crazy few days. I don't normally put any date stamp on these podcasts because I want people to hear them later on and not find them dated, if that makes sense. But as these shows talk about going back into the past and things that shape you, had an influence or put you on the path you're on, then it will be kind of tough not to acknowledge the passing of the greatest guitarist of our generation, Eddie Van Halen, who we learned this week had lost his battle against cancer. I listened to a lot of music, but I think if you had backed me into a corner and I had to say who my favourite all-time band was, then it would be Van Halen. How much they influenced me musically, I'm not sure, because I could never dream of playing like anyone in that band. But as a music fan and a body of work, then yeah, the mighty Van Halen. It's the only band I've travelled overseas specifically to see as a fan 2 times now, the first back in 2004 and then again in 2008. I think they kind of embodied that whole California party band vibe, sunshine, loud music, fun, energy, crazy tunes. That they were just unmatched. So to think we're now living in a world where Eddie Van Halen is no longer here is kind of strange. We're getting older, guys. We're losing our heroes, and I don't know how I feel about that. If you're a rock fan, then Van Halen are kind of like the Beatles or David Bowie. You need to at least go back and check some of their stuff out. Whether it's for you or not, just familiarise yourself with it and respect what they did. They're one of the few bands to successfully change lead singers at the top of the game and continue being successful. That's not easy. It kind of always came down to Eddie, though. He sounded like no one else, and just the way you could see how much he loved playing. Like, that grin. That fucking grin. I love Van Halen so much that I would get frustrated by their lack of activity, and I used to say, I hate my favourite band, because I always wanted more, so much more. We know it's there. Eddie was a formidable writer, constantly recording. I wanted more live videos from back in the day and new music all the time. I'm just so fucking greedy. But now he's gone. I'm still figuring out how I feel about someone I've never met, but like thousands, maybe millions of others, I kind of feel like I did know him. I'll check back with you when I figure it out, if I do. So on today's podcast, you better get ready, because this is a fucking whirlwind. I'm talking to Alex Kane, another guy who has had such an impact on me since I began playing in bands. His band AntiProduct from the early 2000s had such an effect on me from an attitude and performance aspect. I think from, let's say, my career, it could be judged as before AntiProduct and after AntiProduct. I think there was that much of an impact. I first saw the band live at the end of 2001 doing a weird mashed up acoustic electric show they dubbed Acoustimosh. I think they were maybe supporting Tyler from Dogs D'Amour in the basement, or Disco 2 of Rock City in Nottingham. I remember we got there a little late and they'd already started, and as we walked in and headed for the bar, I remember the first thing that hit me was Alex Kane smiling at me from the stage. Or at least felt like he was smiling at me, like directly at me. I think if you'd have asked anyone in that room that night, they would have said he was smiling directly at them. That is the level which Alex connects on stage. I learned my first lesson that night. Fast forward a few months into 2002, and I was good friends with a guy called Russ Booth. Russ was a little older than me and had done all the band touring stuff years before, but we hit it off and loved the whole DIY work ethic of being in bands, so we got on really well. I think Russ knew I was pretty passionate about being a musician, and he called me one day and said he'd seen an ad in NME for a band looking for a bass player. I don't remember the actual wording of the ad, but it was probably along the lines of the ad that landed Ace Frehley the gig with Kiss, which asked for a guitarist with flash and balls, something over the top like that. So anyway, I called the number and it was an answer phone, and it was for AntiProduct. I think their bassist Toshi had left or was leaving, and they were putting word out to try and find someone new. I left a message, then Alex called me back, and probably a week or so later I was heading down London for an audition. I learned the songs Psychedelic Girlfriend, Best Day of Your Life, and Bungee Jumping People Die. Turned out it wasn't an audition like I would have expected. This was like a fucking gig, in the sense that AntiProduct played with the same intensity and energy as if they were playing in front of 10,000 people in a rehearsal room. At first I didn't know what to do, I was taken back, but then it was like, fuck it, let's go. I guess that was lesson number 2. After maybe 1 or 2 run-throughs of the songs, Alex asked me if I could lower my bass a little. My strap was too high. That's amazing. I guess that meant my playing was okay, and now I just had to look more the part. Lesson number 3. We also jammed on a song better than this, which would appear on their next album, Made in USA, and that was it. I was on my way home. I got called back for a second audition, but ultimately didn't get the gig, but I think I was changed forever as a player in just that short space of time. Alex and I have stayed in touch ever since then, coming up on 20 years now, so to sit down and chat with him during this weird time we're in was a blast. Well, I say chat with him. I think I had about 15 or 20 questions to ask, and I probably only got a couple in a call that lasted almost 3.5 hours. The guy is on fire in this. I make no secret that I edit these podcasts, perhaps a lot more than I should, but that's more to cover up my mumblings and talking over people. But if this one feels random, then that's not the editing. Alex jumps all over the place in the best possible way, so please try and keep up. Things do get a little intense in parts, but there's a lot of rock and roll talk. He opens up about his iconic band Life, Sex and Death, and also just relationships, life in general, having a teenage rock and roll heart, which I think is a beautiful saying, and all kinds of other stuff. I think it's a good one, and if you can make it to the end, then you are hardcore. I mean that, it's pretty epic. Alex is currently offering up a bunch of really cool old school merch and souvenirs from his amazing career, which he talks about in this chat, so please hit him up on social media, either on Facebook and Instagram. So here we go. Strap in, folks, and enjoy my chat with the awesome Alex Kane. Hey, there he is.
And there's even audio.
Holy shit. Where are you now?
I'm in a house.
No shit.
I am indoors. I'm in Phoenix right now.
Okay.
What is this for, by the way?
It's for my podcast.
Okay, because I just said yes because it's like, yeah, Rob, I love Rob. Let's fucking hang out with Rob. I thought we were just going to like talk about the old days and whatever.
Yeah, we're going to do that, definitely.
But anyway, so long story short, my mom's 81. Recently, she'd lost her husband. She doesn't have a smartphone. She doesn't drive and not, completely computer savvy, to say the least. Like, if there was a race for out of the three of us who are the least technical, she'd win for sure. And I'm not saying that with any disrespect towards you. So I was on tour with Z'Nuff. We were in Australia. So before the virus, the garbage, whatever we want to call it, actually found its way over to the United States, I had been in Australia with Enuff Z'Nuff. Pandemic hit. I flew back from Australia and went straight to my mom's in the middle of March because I knew it was coming.
Yeah. And
I'm like, she just lost her husband. You know what I mean? She's 81. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go fucking on tour for, I'm not going to discuss the finances, but I got one mom who's 81, whom I don't know how much longer I have.
Yeah, that's the important stuff.
I'm fond of saying the one thing that I've been responsible about during the course of my life is avoiding responsibility. Aside from that, I've been completely irresponsible, except for the avoidance of responsibility. So I live my life. I do what I want. I mean, I've been through girlfriends. It's like you tell them forever, this is what it is. I'm not lying to you. You can try to fix it, but I don't think it's broken. You know what I mean? So, being upfront and being honest and whatever, and, you hit that 2-year mark, and then they kind of finally figure out, whoa, he's a musician and he does work 16 fucking hours a day, and there's no limousines and there's no fucking Lear jets, and, Tommy Lee isn't carrying my amplifiers into the club that I'm about to play for 30 people to on a Tuesday in Kenosha, so the illusions of the lifestyle versus when a musician's trying to tell, somebody that he's with, babe, it's a fucking rough life. And we choose this because we have to make music, not because of the video that you saw from Rat from 1987.
On VH1 Classic.
Yeah, right, exactly. But that's the problem with dating age inappropriately, because they see the video and they think that's still how it is, where it's like, wow, man, baby, I was like a little bit younger than you when that happened. And, and none of those things, that's what, to a degree, that's what pulled us in. You know what I mean? That's just working out. That's doing yoga, people. I wasn't being sexist. We thought that was part and parcel. And when we were first infected with the rock and roll virus, which I promise you there is no vaccine for, you got a teenage rock and roll heart or you don't. Iggy Pop has a teenage rock and roll heart. Steven Tyler, teenage rock and roll heart. Joe Perry, David Bowie, Alice Cooper has a teenage rock and roll heart. Mick Jagger, teenage rock and roll heart. These are which is the other thing. You're not cool anymore until you're cool at 70. Think about it.
Yeah.
Everybody gets one free pass at Young and Beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody gets a free shot at that, All right, till you're 27, you're good. So believe all your own bullshit, embrace it, think it's who you are, think you're different, think the aging process is never going to find you. Everything that goes along with it, you just believe that, like I did, because that cold slap in the face of reality does come when you go, initially, holy fuck, I'm 42. And I'm still doing this shit. I thought by the time I was 42, I was going to be fat, bald, you know what I mean? Just, all right, bring me the ice cream, But again, you get that one shot, that free pass, and then everything after that is like, how bad do you want to keep doing this? And I think what happens after a certain point is you want to do it so bad that it becomes who you are. And then through, I've been on tour since I was 18 and I'm in my mid 50s now, right? And I was on tour since I was 18. So would I trade it for anything? Yeah, no. Just like a normal life? Yeah, I would absolutely not. But that's my incredibly long-winded circular way of saying, Mom and me missed a lot of time together because I was out fucking doing my thing and being irresponsible and whatever. So I come out of that frame of reference to getting off my fifth plane in 2 weeks in the middle of a burgeoning pandemic that was now starting to creep across the planet. Hadn't yet got to the United States because we are impervious to all worries, I guess, because we have reality shows. And then I found myself initially caring for an 81-year-old mom.
Wow,
you know what I mean? And, widowed mom. So now, and then all the bullshit and the airs and graces and the arrogance and the ego or whatever, not even the ego, but the any sense of not serving suddenly becomes irrelevant, right? So then I'm taking care of mom. And of course, the dog gets sick. Right?
Jeez, man.
Then I go from like, woo, fun times. Let's go after the show. We're going to get drunk and we're going to edit whatever we do. To, okay, I must be up at 8:00 because the dog needs his medications. Mom's not going to do it because, she's napping all the time. And so like any sort of illusory sort of embracement of a rock star lifestyle, suddenly I'm a nursemaid.
Yeah.
My mom and the dog. Now, would I trade it for anything? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's my turn. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. You know what I mean? So it's my turn to serve my family rather than my own satisfaction.
Yeah.
Or, people like you. I mean, obviously you're not a fan, but I mean, you're a friend, and you've responded to the work I do, right? I mean, I'm saying we're totally
Yep.
equal as far as like the profession goes, but but I know I respect you and I value you. So, and you sort of extrapolating to a larger, not a much larger number of people, but a certain number of people. So I feel an obligation to never suck and to never do music that isn't challenging or without value or novelty. You know what I mean? I think bungee jumping die is it stands the test of time. I'm very proud of that song, and it doesn't turn into like, oh, I remember the 90s. You know what I mean? It's like still on its own little planet, its own little island. You know what I mean? And so that I've been responsible about, just trying to make good music for people that I know are listening. You know what I mean?
You've always been one of the most intense stage performers I've ever seen. How did Alex Kane first hit the stage at his first gig?
I mean, I didn't know everything I know now. And I was probably 16, maybe a little bit younger. I'd been maybe playing for about 2 or 3 years at that point. And my heroes were already my heroes. So, Rick Nielsen, Kiss, Iggy Pop, they were already the Ramones. They were already my heroes. You know what I mean? So one of the things that drew me to performing the way that I do, whatever that is, for better or for worse, was this is what my idols did, right? I remember seeing the cover of Kiss Alive 2 and Gene's just covered in sweat, and he's got the blood down his chin, and he's got the look, back when he still had the Gene Simmons look, when he could access that energy. And Iggy Pop, you were like, how the fuck does this guy, Michael Lee Smith from Stars, unbelievable performer, unbelievable. Prince, another guy. I just looked at these guys and I'm like, you have to commit with every fiber of your entire existence, mental, physical, spiritual. If it's 5 or 50,000, I've never played to 50,000, 45,000 is the biggest crowd. But whatever the size of the crowd is, again, however I approach that show is more indicative of what I feel about me than my commitment to the craft, right? So if I'm playing in front of 10 people, and I mean, it happens, it's people on the outside of the business, they're like, oh my God, sorry about the shitty attendance. And I'm like, you have not been to a lot of shows, have you? You know what I mean? Because the shows that they hear about are the shows that the mainstream talks about. You know what I mean? So when like me or you play a show with one of our underground, cult bands or whatever, and how many, I mean, there's been shows where AntiProduct played and it was fucking rammed, and there's shows where it's been whatever the opposite of rammed is. But you give the same show because it's not the people that got off their asses and didn't watch Netflix's fault that you're playing to 40 people. So you can still have an even better time by connecting with those 40 people, right? So my heroes never stood still. My heroes, first and foremost, this is what I think about Iggy Pop and Rick Nielsen. I think first and foremost, they drove themselves to prove a point. It starts with the artist. It starts with, what do I need to do to feel good about what I am bringing to this performance, this moment, to these people that left their homes to come down here and spend 2 hours with us. So I will do and give everything I can, because if I don't, it says bad stuff about me. Because, I mean, the Ramones played to 10 people, and you see the videos, and they're not taking it easy in the early days. And they're not taking it easy. There's like big old spaces in the dance floor and whatever when they're playing in clubs. And they're just, it's a fucking, whether a tank is going to blow up one house or an entire city, it's still a tank. And I realize there's a certain connection with my past, but I didn't actually mean to do that. But that was actually the point of the song, not necessarily the number of people. So your intent, I believe, should always be the same. Now, I've never, ever willingly, fuck this show. You know what I mean? There's maybe been like a show where I was sick, where I wasn't physically able to commit as much as I would have liked. But I never went into a show going, oh, fuck, I'm just going to phone this one in, which is the other thing about playing with Z'Nuff. I mean, first of all, great band, great players, great friends. Me and Chip we've known each other longer than we've not known each other.
That's
right?
awesome.
We've known each other longer than we've not known each other. And I love him. I love everybody in the band. You know, it sucks that the album came out right in the middle of the shittiest part of the pandemic. I mean, it came out in the middle of the worst time. And here's the thing, and this is what I say to the Darbies too. And again, I manage them. And I mean, you were there when you were actually part of inventing fan funding when APRA was like, well, we'll pay for it. And I'm like, that's actually a really good fucking idea. Why am I with the middleman when you guys are offering to help us when the van thing was the first, right? This is how we buy the van. Then the van got stolen. That was the second incidence of fan funding. And then when we got fucked on Made in USA, when the manager split with the money, you know what I mean? And so it was like, well, you know, we don't have a label. So guys, you know, you like us. What do you think? You want to buy it before it comes out? Anyway, here's the thing that I've just recently because, you know, I lost all my work, you know, all my touring work. A year gone, a year of work gone, you know, and it's not like I'm not qualified to go work at Kinko's even, you know what I mean? Because there's some 23-year-old with more experience who's going to get the job before me. So I'm selling merch. That's how I'm living now. We can no longer expect, I believe at this juncture anyway, that we are going to have a sudden influx of these invisible, newly found fans. Our core fan base is who they are. But because the major labels are in disrepair and there's so few bands that speak to their needs, like the underground does more for the audience, I believe, than Taylor Swift, right? Than Nickelback. So I'm in touch. I'm friends with most of the people that would buy my music and my shirts. I know them by name, by face, firsthand. That's my core audience, the Darby's core audience, Rob Lane's core audience, all of our core audiences, but they know we're going through shit. And they are stepping up to support us. So what I say to all of the musicians out there that are trying to figure out how the fuck to get through this, the core fans will still be there for you. So instead of trying to sell them the same one shirt, give them stuff to buy because they will be there. So rather, this is like a conversation I'm having with the Darbies right now. They want to do a 2-sided shirt, which will cost them double the money. So I'm like, well, that's not really, your fans are your fans. They are going to support you. They want more shit from the Darbies to buy. You're a brand new band. So my suggestion was make 2 shirts, which will cost you half as much, which you can then sell for the same price that you thought you were going to sell your double-sided, twice as expensive one, but then give your fans a break, make 2 shirts, bundle them up so they can save money, and 80% are going to buy both. So you're giving the fans more of what they want from you while taking care of your own financial responsibilities as well. Mm-hmm. Which means, like, I don't know, I mean, I got to do another rollout, but, you know, I know what my core fans are. I know them. And so I give them new Alex related shit. So it started with the shirt and then that sold. And then like and you know, I'm at mom's, like I keep saying. So while I was homeless rock guitar player, because I didn't need a home, I was on the road. Hey mom, can you store this for me? Right. And then so I find the cassette demos of
Nice.
Life, Sex and Death Enough. Yeah. Just like the stuff, you know, and it's weird for me to go back and I listen and I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck was I, you know what I mean? Because the first gig I ever had was replacing Michelangelo Badio.
What?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So your first gig in what? As in?
Playing guitar.
What?
I replaced him, yeah. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that, no. That's why I'm doing these conversations. I'm digging back.
Okay. In a nutshell, the first job I ever had that I got paid for, I was playing with a shock jock in Chicago called Steve Dahl. Okay. To the best of my knowledge, he may have been one of the first shock jocks. He had a band called Teenage Radiation, right? I was 18, but I was the only one that was a teenager. But that was the first gig that I got, and we were doing like parody covers. So he did a song about John Wayne Gacy, the clown mass murderer in the Midwest, right? This is still in Chicago. So instead of Another Brick in the Wall, it was called Another Kid in the Crawl. Yeah. Couldn't do it now. Imagine if somebody released a TV show like All in the Family today. They would be fucking hung in public. They would be hung. If somebody released a show like All in the Family right now, it would be the one thing that would bring the United States of America together, because both the right and the left would be so insulted and offended, they'd go kill people together. That's what we need. We need a totally leftist, racist TV show to unite the country. And you may even have heard of him. Do you remember a thing called the disco demolition that happened in Chicago in Comiskey Park, where a DJ was blowing up disco records and the fans rushed the field and destroyed it?
No, that's awesome.
All right. Yeah, disco demolition, Chicago figures. But disco demolition, Steve Dahl, Dahl. It's all over the internet. Like if you look at YouTube, and there will be millions and millions and millions. Like it was big fucking news, because literally he started blowing up disco records because fuck disco. And then the Midwestern fans rushed on the field, destroyed the field. It was in Comiskey Park in Chicago. I don't remember the year, but anyway. So that obviously increased his fame. As you will. And so subsequently I got hired, and then we toured. And then, my first gig, I was playing in front of, 1,000, 1,500 people. And I didn't have time to adjust, where I was like, this is what we're doing. Okay, so let's go out there and play. And I did that for a couple of years. And then somehow, and then I got in a band called No Excuse with Lizzie Valentine from DeMalls. Are you familiar with DeMalls?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So No Excuse was me and Lizzie, a guy named Randy Antlept, who's playing in a great Chicago band I used to be a huge fan of called Off Broadway. Great power pop band. They are quintessential, swagger-less Midwestern power pop. Cheap Trick had swagger, balls, darkness, rage, chaos, arena filling sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
They play dark in a major key, like the Ramones, right? Midwestern power pop, there's a new little girl on the block, and 1 4 1 5 4, right? But I love power pop. I'm cool with it. But I get my teenage rock and roll heart wants some danger and some fucking darkness. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Off Broadway didn't have that, even though they were all alcoholics and drug addicts, and they should have tapped into that. Which, you notice how like power pop guys are always like comedians. Like the clown is the most miserable person in the world. It's the power pop guys that all kill themselves. Material Issue, Kurt Cobain, Big Star, Badfinger. I know I'm forgetting people, but it's the new little girl on the block guys that are, I think what happens is you're so sad and you're so forlorn as either a comedian or a power pop guy. So you look to find the positive to somehow, and I'm a pretty dark guy on the inside, okay? So you try to embrace something that's lighter and uplifting just for a glimmer of sunshine through the black window. Comedy is your buffer. Happy pop is your buffer when inside that's not what you're feeling, right? So anyway, that's just sort of a sidebar, and I feel for power pop guys because I am a power pop guy. I get the power pop guy. And there are way more dead power pop guys than there are dead black metal guys. So that tells you what you need to know about the psychology of the people that are looking for a ray of sunshine. Anyway, And that got pretty dark, but I feel for these guys. I feel for them so much. Anyway, off Broadway, check them out. Didn't have swagger, unbelievable power pop tunes, and the guitar player, John Ivan, so good. Such a great guitar player that the world doesn't know about him is one of the sins of living. Brilliant. Kind of super melodic, but still like jazzy without notes.
Mm-hmm.
Like out of the blue where it's, with a harmony. You hear the thing already, but then it'll be like, and we're like, what? When did he? Okay, I guess he's really fucking good. And he was really good and great live. But anyway, so Randy from No Excuse, Lizzie, and then Art Tianis, he died from cancer a few decades ago. And he was the other guy in the band, and just a class act and sorely power pop guy, but it was cancer. It wasn't, external, but sorely missed and a class man all through and through. Anyway, so we started playing. Lizzie started telling me about his friend Chris, right? Oh, Chris, he's so weird and he's crazy, but he's really, you got to meet my friend Chris. So I was in No Excuse. Now, no, I was in No Excuse before Steve Dahl because the first show I did ever was on TV. Yeah, it was a battle of the bands, and we made it into the final thing. And so there's all kinds of cameras and stuff. And again, I was like, this is what happens when you play music. Yeah. Cameras. Am I Jimmy Page yet? There's cameras here. So anyway, our singer flaked, the one that we had. So we didn't win the competition. We did come in second somehow because Randy and Art were both great singers. So they would just sing. And then our singers showed up at the end and did like 2 songs, which just made it all the more grotesque and pathetic. Where it's like, why don't you just fucking stay home? Now it looks stupid. Yeah. Now we look like idiots. Anyway, so that was the show that I met Chris Stan at. And so he had a band called Bottoms Up, which was they referred to as a wedding band because while everybody else was getting into their torn shirts and their Motley Crue costumes and all of that stuff, we didn't want to be like the other reindeer. That was one of the very first things where it's like, we don't want to be like any of these other bands. I don't know if they, fuck me. Oh, wait. Probably 84.
Okay.
84. Yeah. Because I was actually 19, so it would have been 84. Is that right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It was, yes, because it was the end of 1984 that I did my first show, which was that show on TV, The Battle of the Bands. By May of the following year, was it May? Pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's, we're going back decades now. And, when you're in and out of bands. But, so No Excuse led to me starting to work with Chris, right? It was a different drummer at first, Jim Bashaw, who's still a great drummer. That's before we got Brian. But No Excuse was me and Billy Garr, Chris Stan, initially Jim Bashaw on drums. But Jim had started playing with another band, and we were all still kids and stuff. And remember, I'm older than you, but I assume it was still a thing where it's like, no, man, you can't play with any other bands. Remember when that was me and you actually had that conversation?
Yes.
Remember when you got your first other gig and I was like, dude, take the fucking gig. Go. But, I get it. I came from the other school for sure. You know what I mean? But when you're outside of the picture, you can have a bigger mouth than, you know what I mean? Because you obviously had ties that I wasn't acknowledging, but I still stand by what I said. And I think it served you. I do. Jim was playing with another band and we were like, well, fuck that guy. And so we knew that Brian was out there and we wanted more like a Tommy Lee fucking show guy.
Yeah.
Jim was a great arranger of parts. He was really into the drummer from that band off Broadway, incidentally, right? And kind of had that sort of sound. And we needed somebody who was just this guy and the fucking all of that stuff. We just wanted everything to be too much always. So it took us a while, and finally we got Brian in the band. And the other guy, Dave Jezel, and we are, well, I'm still friends with Dave, but Dave was in Bottoms Up. He was the other guitar player in Bottoms Up. Dave, I don't think coincidentally ended up going into psychoanalysis. And he genuinely, that's what he did. He stopped playing rock and roll so that he could go become a doctor, which he became, and a very great, fulfilling life. And he does, he helps the guys that were in Life, Sex, and Death Hour. We will call him up. And, even though we don't talk to each other quite so much at all, Dave is still like Dave and Chicago are the ties that bind. But anyway, so it went bottoms up, left bottoms up for Holland, which was in 85. So I was probably like a year, 8 months in bottoms up with Chris and Dave and Billy. And at this point now, and they hated me when I went to go play with Holland, but we were selling. I mean, that band was the biggest regional Midwestern band. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, what they were the Wild Hearts of the Midwest. You know what I mean? Where they would play and 1,500 people showed up and they wanted to give me the gig. Problem was, while I loved Eddie and while I loved Randy and Holsworth and stuff, you know what I mean? I was more drawn to Cheap Trick and the Ramones and, kind of irony-based, aggressive music with a lot of harmonies. So basically AntiProduct, where it's like, all right, wait till the chorus comes though. And that's what I've been drawn to. So I wasn't really into sweeps and any of that fucking ego shit. It wasn't what excited my teenage rock and roll heart. But to get the job, you had to sit there for fucking 12 hours a day practicing sweeps and all of those things. It did a lot for the technical aspect of my playing, certainly not the musical aspect of my playing, because I go back and I listen to these demos and I'm like, what guitar player was I trying to be here? Certainly not me, because there's like sweeps and fucking two-handed tapping. And like, I'll listen back to some of it and I'll be like, I don't even know how I did that, let alone why I would have spent time working on figuring out how to do that. But, it did serve me in the end where I developed some chops that perhaps otherwise I wouldn't have had. But so after Holland, now I am one of the biggest guitar players in the Midwest. I mean, I think it was more the shtick than the chops because I never got bass no chops, man. I still listen to that stuff when I'm like, fuck, what? Maybe not why, but definitely how did he find enough time to be able to do all of that? How did that cut into his fucking time? You know what I mean? It's like, unless he was practicing while he was fucking, I guess. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what you do. I'm not good at multitasking. If I'm having sex, I'm having sex. If I'm practicing guitar, I'm practicing guitar.
As soon as you picked up the guitar, was you full on, this is me, this is what I'm doing every spare hour?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and without question. Probably more so after I got the Holland gig. But while everybody else was learning how to play guitar fast, I was learning how to write songs, right? So let's do whatever song that everybody knows. I'm going to watch your fingers, and I'll be on the backbeat for the first verse and chorus until I know what the song goes like. Because I learned the songs that inspired me as a songwriter, not as a noodler, right? I was always drawn to the craft of creating 4 minutes of art rather than the 30 seconds in the middle, going from the premise where if you don't like it by the solo, I really haven't done my job. I want you to like it by the first 10 seconds. And I want you to like it because it's got something so amazing about it that you're immediately like, huh? Bungee jumping people die. I mean, you first hear it and you're like, what's this? Arms Around the World, the beginning of Psychedelic Girlfriend, You know what I mean? Oh, and here's you remember Best Day? Would you say the people that listen to stuff, would they have an understanding of AntiProduct or anything?
I'm open so. Yeah, I'm open so, definitely.
Yeah, right. Zero listens. Hey, Alex, bad news. The good news is you don't have to worry about any potential pushback for any of the nonsense you said. Bad news is nobody heard anything you said. 84 was Bottoms Up. 85 was Holland. 87 was Enuff Z'Nuff. 89, 90, 89. 89 was Life, Sex, and Death. We'd been in Bottoms Up. And then so Dave went to college to learn what was wrong with us. and then we moved to California, right? And then that was 92. And it's like Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, we'll use Christmas because it's more, everybody in England knows what Christmas. I don't know if we know what Thanksgiving's about. You spend weeks planning the meal and sending them, preparing and blah, 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 blah. And then the meal's over in half an hour. Well, that's what it's like getting signed. You spend years getting the band together, writing the songs, putting it together. Then you go make the album, and then you break up a year later. Right?
Yeah.
And we can think of the examples, all of so many of the bands that didn't connect then after that one album, Pistols. Mm-hmm. But I think certain things are meant to explode by definition, or they don't become as important. You know what I mean? Like if Life, Sex, and Death had continued making significantly less important records one after another, then by now we would have shit all over the legacy. But by virtue of the fact that like nobody got into us, it became important over time. Mm-hmm.
It looked like a band which was like totally combustible from the go. Like, this band ain't going to last very long. And that's what's awesome.
No way that...
No way they're going to survive.
Okay, they got a homeless singer, by superficially. Because the whole thing was really, Chris, it was first of all, let me go on record. I, to this day, have no idea where Chris Stanley, where he got his ideas from. I really have no idea. Where the inspiration, singing in Native American in Train, right? It's a song off the record. He sings most of the verses in English, and then all of a sudden he starts singing one of the verses in Native American. It means something. I don't know what it means, but he translated it. Train is a song off the album Silent Majority. And I'm like, I think it's fucking brilliant. Let's do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you guys ever wanted anything whatsoever that I've worn, played on, produced, designed, been photographed, get a hold of me in any social media whatsoever. Because I got demos from Enuff Z'Nuff before we got signed that Derek learned the parts from.
So cool.
Because they got signed off the demos that I played on. And then so Donnie called me from the studio. I hear Derek just shredding balls in the background. Yeah, we're soloing, laughing at me to show you how inappropriate he is. Yeah, we're soloing your parts up and making Derek learn them now. I'm like, I think I'm pissed off about that. So I've got the demos that then led to what that sound was.
Very cool.
Same thing with Life, Sex, and Death. I have the original recordings that got us signed to Warner Brothers, 24 songs. I've got a 15-song original demo from the first time we went into the studio. I sell those. I don't have it on my wall. I should. So definitely hit me up, because this is what pays for food and dog medicine. Of course, you can buy stage played strings from me. I actually have my DNA on it. Think about it. We're coming up. We're into Van Halen, right? Or whoever the fuck we're into. Can you imagine? I'm going to see Cheap Trick. I'm 12 years old. I go to the merch stand and I see actual strings that Rick Nielsen played. That's the first thing I'm going to buy before a shirt.
Yeah. And
I remember back when I was still living in England, we did the first Clive Aid thing, right? Mm-hmm. Me, I played with Bernie Tormé. Me, Bernie, Robin Guy, and John McCoy, right? And so that's how GMT got together, because I brought Robin to Bernie's studio when Bernie was still with us, and he played drums on Good Vibrations and a couple of things. And that's how the two of them met. And they were like, I mean, they fired off each other like crazy. Yeah. So that was the genesis of that. And for everything that I stole from Bernie to be able to like go, dude, meet this amazing motherfucking drummer, and he is going to piss you off so much, so often that you are going to play better than you've ever played in your life. But that's what Robin does. His playing and his attitude, it's so like fiery, right? That you cannot help but be energized by this. And that's the exact same kind of relationship that I had with Brian, where we were inseparable best friend, brother, lovers who fucking couldn't piss anybody off more than each other. So you need that kind of fire in a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Freddie Mercury, Roger Taylor, fucking, they loved each other. They would die for each other, but they threw shit at each other all the time. Freddie Mercury and Roger would get in fist fights, right? Freddie Mercury knocking Roger Taylor out. And I'm gay, motherfucker. You know, because Freddie was a boxer as he was coming up. Like he was an actual boxer, so he could handle himself, like Morrissey, you know what I mean? Kind of like a thug gay dude where it's like, don't fucking, I'll knock you out, motherfucker. But so Robin has that same kind of fire. He's got so much fire in his playing, and it permeates his relationships as well. And I know for a fact, I mean, obviously Cy, you know, and Ben and Greg. I mean, all these guys. Actually, I hated all of them. But that's the drummer's job, I think, to keep people on edge and to keep it from, this is not how a drummer needs to play. You know what I mean? You got to be like, you're keeping up with that dude's energy. He's the heartbeat. So I don't even know what the point was, but, Rob and Bernie. Yeah. And then, so we did, right. I get it now. We did the first Clive Aid, and Steve Harris had, and I still have them somewhere. Steve Harris had auctioned a bunch of his bass strings to raise money for Clive, right? Because apparently the people in Iron Maiden are cool motherfucking human beings that don't turn their back on their friends, you know? So they all chipped in different shit to give to the auction to raise money for Clive. And I went right for the strings. So anyway, that's why. And then so like I call up my guitar player buddies. I'm like, dude, you got to start selling strings. They don't sell at every show, but they'll sell. And like, you know, the way to stay alive contemporarily as a musician is you take enough income creaks till they become a string. Right? Little creaks. And then you know what I mean? So anyway, so if you're out there and you're playing, put the fucking strings out there. And I remember telling Phil, Phil, and you know, I know what I charge, what I feel good about charging, where I don't feel like I'm gouging people, because again, your core fan base is your core fan base. You must treat them well. And it's so funny, like I get blamed for shitty post service. I am like this close from like selling blowjobs, you know what I'm saying? So I want to be like really making sure I'm taking care of the people that allow me to live during the middle of a pandemic. But like when the post office that Trump is now trying to undermine any way possible in the middle of a pandemic and race riots. So when it turns out, hey, I'm actually just a rock and roll guitar player and not Amazon, you know what I mean? I ordered your shit 3 days ago.
Oh my God, yes, that's the worst.
Well, it's because they're used to Amazon. So you got to go, I'm not Amazon. You're talking to a guy who's not only trying to take care of his family right now by selling this shit to you, not shit, but these things, you know what I mean? I didn't make an Alex shirt because it's like, hey, I want to see my face on a shirt because I'm so into me. I'm thinking like I have a core fan base. Maybe they'll buy an Alex shirt too. And the irony is, dude, the Alex shirt has outsold either AntiProduct or Life, Sex, and Death. Now, what that means is my life hasn't fallen into a vacuum. That's what that means. What I have chosen to do with my life, the only takeaway, brother, there are people that actually give a shit.
How cool is that?
Right? We know each other for a long fucking time, brother. And you've not changed who you are, even though you've achieved more stuff and you've gone on to do some killer fucking music, but you're still the Rob that I met.
Yeah.
And we have different experiences, but I'm still that same Alex, foibles as well as attributes. You know what I mean? But this is my way of saying I've known you to always be a rock star, but I have never known you to have an ego.
That's what I try. I try my best.
Well, and that's, I think, one of the reasons that we're still friends after all this time. Here's the other thing. Maybe you can explain this to me. Why are my friendships that I've established in the UK, why do those supersede in depth and longevity, particularly in depth? The relationships that I've had with people in this country before the political shit turned into a war in a literal sense, why am I closer to you than people that I've known for longer here? Why am I closer to Danny McCormick? You know what I mean? The list goes on and on and on. Why do I resonate at a deeper Jason? These are all bass players.
Yeah, there you go. You figured it out. You figured it out yourself. Stick with the bass players.
Fuck your country is unless you're bass playing. Okay, I get it. Okay, break. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, like all of those APRA people that we met all those years ago, literally 2 decades ago, I'm still friends with everyone. I'm still, and not just in that like, hey man, how's it going? But like we're immediately, when we hang out, we are immediately talking about real shit, important stuff, cool things, not the superficial and the vacuous. You know what I mean? There's like a genuine bond that even though I only spent 10 years, meaning I've spent 45, well, 43, not there, right? What is it? Why are we tighter? I mean, I think America is more every man for himself.
Yeah.
Rugged individualism has turned into killing sprees. But it wasn't like that when we met. You know what I mean? It wasn't quite like that when we met. But why do I feel more at home with a person with the English world view or an English upbringing or education? What is it where, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not denigrating any of my friends over here, but I'm just saying, because I mean, I'm as close to Johnny Martin and whatever the fuck as anybody that I know. But on the whole, my relationships with people that I met from my time in England far supersedes the amount of people that I consider to be close with in this country.
People look back on that time as like a pretty special time. I don't know, there's some good stuff going off around then. So it's pulling on the heartstrings about that time, but I don't know.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with being friends. I mean, I know it was a special time. I am fully aware. And we were, all of us, everybody that was involved in that scene, and Ian, and you know what I mean? I'm saying, like, a wide net, you know, Tyler, you know what I mean? It just keeps going. We all kind of, even though we were in the painting and painting the picture, we all kind of knew what we were doing at that time was of significance, but we were so imbued in the time that we experienced it rather than already being nostalgic about it while it was going on, you know. But it was absolutely, I mean, it was groundbreaking. It was inspirational. Everybody was throwing it on the line. It was the beginning of the dissolution of the music business. And how do we figure out to keep going and all of those things? But that doesn't have anything to do with friendship.
No. A lot of people just like seem to move on super quick. They forget about stuff rather than, you know, I mean, use that person onto this next person. I see that a lot. They've got what they need from you, now they're on to the next thing.
Well, and I think particularly, I think that could speak to culturally and sociologically the difference between what I experience here and what I experience there, because it seems like here it's every man for himself, and I will use you till I'm done using you to go use someone else. Whereas in England, I don't know if I could live there again. I don't know. But I do know there's a greater sense of, and again, I don't know what the political climate is now. This country here, you're looking at a generation before anything even approximating a United States, at least a generation.
Wow.
A generation. Because the hate is strong. The hate is strong. As the layers of civility peel away more and more, and there are more deliberately contrived, I believe, fractures within the fractures. So now I got newly woke people calling me a racist because I'm not going to go march in the middle of a pandemic because I'm taking care of an 81-year-old woman with a respiratory problem. So first of all, fuck you for being late to the party. You know what I mean? You should have been doing this 10 years ago, before the fracture, when we still had a chance of uniting, not when suddenly you woke up and went, oh my God, what have we done to minorities? Chinese built the railroad. No Chinese, no fucking railroads. You know what I mean? Who else is there to exploit? And I mean, it was a different era, obviously, but this whole Wild West thing, you see that, and which is what I'm saying, the civility that society offers us, right? Where you can't say certain words to people. We are white. We cannot say the N-word, period. We cannot. So no matter how many rap songs you hear where the N-word is being used, that is them reappropriating a word that we use to denigrate them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the unfortunate reality for white people is it is the Spanish word negro that we could not pronounce. We were too ignorant to know how to use what the word was. So why we were saying this human being is 3/5 of an individual, of a human being. This human being is not a human being because of their skin pigment. The same God that you say created you make a mistake. You are justifying your pocketbook by trivializing what the God you worship created in that man right there. So yes, they are saying a couple of years ago, I was like the token white guy in all of these sort of like everybody wanted a rock guitar player, but they couldn't afford Tracy Guns, let alone Slash, right? We'll call Alex. And I took every fucking gig because I wanted to learn different shit. One thing that was exciting, different for me about playing, being the only white dude in a black band, it was prayer circles before we played. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I'm down. I'll pray with you guys. Yeah, it's fine. I've never been in a band that did a prayer circle. But once I started playing with kids in black bands, it was all prayer circles. And I'm like, all right, cool, let's do this. And afterwards we would say another prayer. And I remember there was one band that I was playing with, and you know, I fit in and I'm not racist. I don't give a fucking shit what color, what skin pigment you happen to have. Any more than like, oh my God, they've got dark hair. Oh no, it's a blonde person. Get over it, you fucking clowns. Then as I became less the white guy and more one of the dudes in the band, then, you know, suddenly there's like these black dudes and they're, you know, N-bombing, N-word, N-word, N-word. And then like the main dude, the singer guy, like suddenly he was like, wait a minute, there's a white dude in the room with us guys. Like he didn't say it, but you could tell that he kind of went like, and like he looks over at me and I just go, I do the emoji before there was that emoji. And then he was like, yeah, okay. All right. He's not, okay. We're good. We can just talk freely, you know? And it was like, and I can't, because people that looked like me, I mean, aside from the hair and the face and the tattoos and whatever, but people of my skin color had imported these human beings to work for nothing, to have their women impregnated, raped. And what we see in sports, right? And this is not a controversial notion. It's actual biology. What we see is the byproduct of the breeding for super slaves. 7'11" people aren't that common, except in sports. And then you see these like white people that live in trailers and whatever that go, oh, well, he's got a lot of nerve. He gets paid all of this money, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because the people that fucking own him all but are making so much fucking money that they actually got to pay him to stay in a different tax bracket. They're making that much money. That motherfucking dude whose great-great-grandparents were bred to be slaves, motherfucker, is owed. And that's why you can't say the N-word any more than a German person can say the K-word. It just can't happen. It's about context. Deal with it. If you were to walk into a room full of black people as the white guy, and all the black people were going, whitey cracker, whitey cracker, whitey cracker, whitey cracker, well, that doesn't suddenly, you know what I mean? You're not going to feel good. So shut the fuck up. For all of the shit that Europeans have done to these black people, you can't even let them steal back the word that we used to call them to create slaves. You can't give them just that one word. You can't do that. One word. You are that terrified by people of a different skin pigment that you have to get your panties in a bunch over one word, and you call me the snowflake? Fuck you. How do we get on that? But it's true.
It is true.
One fucking word. One word. One word. One word. Stop it. Let them have the word. Let them have the word. Right? It's them going, no, those days are over, motherfucker. You don't get to talk to me like that. Those days are over. Fuck you back.
Right, I'm going to reel it into something now. Let's see if we can pull it back, some rock and roll. So, let's see if this makes sense. At what point did Life, Sex and Death become Life, Sex and Death? Was it out of the gate, or did it develop?
No. When we were Bottoms Up, what used to happen was Chris, had a character, a persona that he had that we called the nerd.
Okay.
Now, those glasses are real. Those are actually Chris's glasses, right? He cannot see. He's blind. So the glasses were real, as was the suit. It used to be a very nice, high-end, expensive suit. The shirt as well was a designer shirt. Everything that he was wearing, these were all designer clothes, which was part of the performance art of the thing. But before the suit, he looked more like Bon Jovi. Before he was Stanley, he looked more like Bon Jovi. So he had, the ringlet hair and, cheekbones, and like he's a good-looking dude. He was skinny, tall, and had his very own charisma, undeniably as well. So, but what we would do, even though, a lot of people already knew what Bottoms Up was and who was in the band, but what he would do is he would put on the glasses, a trench coat, and a stocking cap to cover his hair. He didn't look like Chris at all, even if you knew him.
Right.
He didn't look like Chris Stan. He looked like some nerd. So we would send him into venues first, and he would go hassle everybody who was there to see us. But we didn't tell him that, like, oh yeah, Chris is going to do this, that, or the other thing. So you would get a certain percentage of the audience for, by definition, every time we played, because we wouldn't tell him about Chris. If it was a new venue or whatever. So he would go hassle with people, and then, this is still in Bottoms Up days, and then we would get up and he would walk on stage and we would do our first song, which, because we always had big ambitions and we were, we realized how big the world was. Our first song was called Hello, Chicago. Because if you were in any way tied into power pop, you needed a song that said hello there, ladies and gentlemen, right? But we wanted to do something different, so it was Hello, Chicago. So we had that song. And then at the end of that, he would take the glasses off and the trench coat, which was covering up his stage gear, and the glasses, and, he would shake his hair out, and it would be like, oh my God, he's really cute. So then you fast forward, and then now we're in the Life, Sex, and Death days. Was Life, Sex, and Death Stanley the nerd? No, I think Stanley used to come out with Bottoms Up too. Yeah. But I'd really have to think about that. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it just started. But he didn't stay the character, though, until we got to L.A. When we were in L.A., that's when it was no more Chris. I don't know if I'm talking out of turn, but it's been a long time, and it's the truth. I think a lot of times really like interesting, flamboyant, charismatic people, I think a lot of times they're probably maybe the most insecure. Brian Wilson, his dad was always telling him what a piece of shit he was. Prince, I don't think he was the most popular guy in school at first, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. These things that drive you to excel. Overcoming your insecurities or what might make you weak or whatever the word would be. And I do feel, frankly, I feel to an extent that, I think there were some unfortunate things that maybe happened with Chris when he was a kid that gave him a unfortunate perspective on himself, which I don't think was fair to the child, but it made a very interesting, no matter how damaged, person. But the thing we can never forget is stable, balanced people don't make good art, right? Because you don't have to. You don't have to. The people that buy Nickelback, they're not going to be the same people that buy Iggy Pop. some people that want to be entertained, and there's some people that want to know that they're not alone. And I think most of the people that actually get up on stage, initially that was done to prove to themselves they're not alone. Whereas the quote unquote consumer of the product, they have their own motivations. Only some consumers are like, I just need to know I'm not alone. You know, the people that get into Manson or whatever, you know what I mean? The more extreme shit, and I don't just mean, but I mean Nick Cave too, you know what I mean? Ben Folds, as much as anything, with emotional content rather than singing about beers and penises, which would be a great name for a song. When we do our side band, that should be our first song, Beers and Penises. So to overcome any sense of insecurity, because Chris, frankly, would not have competed with David Lee Roth because he wasn't that kind of superficial. He wasn't just like, oh, I'm blonde and here's songs about beer and penises. You know what I mean? There was always way more depth and damage to the man. He knew he wasn't going to go out there and suddenly be like, oh, I'm the next Janie Lane. I mean, but Janie, obviously, brilliant songwriter and damaged person. So I don't know if that's the best example. If anyone's the best example, it's just an example. But his goals and need for expression, I think, was always much more. Are you familiar with the LSD music?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wasn't at the time. It's something you said earlier, it's something that's developed over time. People have come into it at a later time. So yeah, through you and AntiProduct.
Yeah, I'm super excited that all of my fucking bands become much more successful 20 years after I start them. Dude, it's so fucking annoying. It's like, I thought, quote unquote, I don't mean that this is all he was, but quote unquote, I thought that, like, we thought the dancing bum thing was our way of selling out. Like, it was like, we can't afford pyro. We got this guy. You were into Alice Cooper. Here's the next evolution. That was our thinking, And when I say the dancing bum thing, I more than anyone on earth understand literally how much more there was to Chris than that one statement. That's just how it was perceived, not what it was. He was Andy Kaufman, right? He was Andy Kaufman. So you can go, yeah, the one nerd that sang to the Mickey Mouse theme. You can say that, but that's not what Andy Kaufman was. There was much more. So when I say the dancing bum, I realize there was much more. Or you can look at him and go, oh, yeah, the guy, here I come to say Ultra Mouse. No, what was it? Andy Kaufman used to go on Saturday Night Live. He would lip sync to Here I Come to Save the Day. And it was some cartoon.
Oh, Mighty Mouse.
Mighty Mouse. Thank you. That's what it was. It was a cartoon. Yes, that's the one, which was a mouse superhero. So I equate him much more with Lenny Bruce and Andy Kaufman than I do with a dancing bum. I am just saying that from an outsider perspective, if you didn't get the depth of the intelligence and the inspiration in what he was saying,
yes,
that's what you saw. That's all a lot of people saw. Yeah, anyway, but it was when we got out to L.A., here's another sort of, like, we never did anything by halves ever whatsoever, once, never at all. So when we first got out to LA, the first thing we did was, me or Bill, we went through the back of the recycler. Any ad whatsoever that was looking for a singer, me or Bill would drive Stan to the audition. And he would go up and he would audition. And it would make an impression. So when we finally started doing shows, Stanley called up everybody that he'd auditioned for and, oh, I've got a band together and we're playing and I'd love it if you come down. The first show we ever played in Los Angeles, there was about 200 people there.
Where was it at? Do you remember the venue?
FM station. And we did everything that we did. It was the first time Stanley performed in public for a whole show. And we were opening for somebody. And I remember how horribly it emptied out after this unheard of band. Nobody had heard of us, which worked in our favor. Because, like, he came out and, oh, for all of my life, and he did the thing, and people are like, what the fuck? And he'd already been positioned outside doing whatever pre-propaganda he'd been doing out there. And we came on, and I mean, you just saw, literally the faces were like, even after we finished, after we finished the song, it would be, oh, and I mean, right away, and we were bringing people on stage and just everything, all of it, breaking that fourth wall, like from the first song. And after that, you never saw him in public with the band because and two things, and I guess, I don't know if this is being a shitty person. I don't think so. But if I wrote a book, it would be in the book. So I don't think that Chris he was very, very vocal about what he was very willful, but I don't think he was overly confident. So if he assumed a persona, if they didn't like the persona, Chris is still okay. They didn't hate Chris, they hated Stanley. The sensitivity and the vulnerability is being protected to the extent that he created a persona that when it was band time, he lived 24/7. That's how willing to insulate Chris was, right? He was willing to live it smelling like shit and vomit 24 hours a day to make sure that nobody passed judgment on Chris. The shtick is undeniable. I mean, literally, I've been chased down, literally, by Corey Taylor and Marilyn Manson individually. Right? I was at a bowling thing, Bowling for Cancer, that Ronnie James Dio thing. That me and Johnny were on the same team, and maybe Ace was. There's like 5 of us that are just like not cool in LA, and we get all the work. You know what I mean? But we don't care about playing in the Still of the Night by Whitesnake ever at all. You know what I mean? And it's like me and Sam Bam and Ace and Logan and, just like these guys that we just don't want to be like the other reindeer. We don't want to, because there are enough of those kind of reindeer. So, but anyway, so we always are like, get the punk rock guys together. Go over there and do your punk rock thing. So and this dude that I didn't recognize comes chasing across the thing, and I'm like, I must be a Life, Sex, and Death fan, right? So, hey man, I gotta get my picture with you, and oh my god, I can't believe I'm like, thanks, buddy. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm like, wow, here, all these years later, blah 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 blah. Now I'm just, we're talking, and it's no big deal, and he's saying some very flattering things, and I'm like, well, nice to meet you, and like the only thing I didn't say is like, nice to meet you, kid. Hope everything works out, right? Now everybody's kind of standing around all weird at this point. I noticed for the first time, where I'm like, did I say something about the guy's mom? What's with all do you know who that was? I'm like, yeah, a guy who's, and I thought this was my bragging rights. Well, yeah, that's a Life, Sex, and Death fan. Yeah, that's right. That's Corey Taylor, Alex. Slipknot? Yeah, from Slipknot. Now, I'd already played in the Murder Dolls, so I knew that they were all way into, Joey had said that, we knew that if you guys could get out of Chicago and get signed, we could have the same thing happen.
Awesome.
They very much employed the Life, Sex, and Death work ethic, where they would practice with the masks on and heaters.
Wow, really?
Yeah, but that's what Life, Sex, and Death used to do. We practiced 5 days a week. Every single day we would run the set 3 times. We made it look so easy that you had to be as good as we were to understand what the fuck we were making look easy. Same thing with AntiProduct.
I was going to say, that must be from your gut, that regime.
I will say this, and this is pride, not ego. And I have to say this because I've been touring. I'm 55 now. I've been touring since I was 18. I say this to all the young people I work with when they get like all cocky about their one free pass at being young and beautiful. I'm like, well, yeah, I want you to check back with me in 35 years. And because I have I like the Darbys, they're young, but they're fucking smart as shit. They are very, very smart people. So when I said that to Ronnie, who's like my kid brother, the kid brother I never wanted, but I'm glad I've got, he's a guitar player. And as much like me, dude, you'll see him play and you'll be like,
yep, there it is.
I know exactly where that came from. Like he does. I don't know if you've seen it, and forgive me for I should actually use one of Al Bain's straps right now. But the one where I'll throw it, like generally speaking, I do it at the end of a song. I throw the guitar in the air and then I hit the last hit across the strings. Well, I'm not the only one who does that. And all of the like above the nut stuff. Woo, woo, yeah, that stuff. So both Ronnie and Sam Bam are doing that. And I mean,
they've got it.
Yeah, they got it. Sam Bam does it so good where it's like, I love being stolen from by young players that do something else with it. I just stole everything from, my heroes, guys who made it look easy and just added my thing. You know what I mean?
For me as an outsider, seeing bands like yourself or similar bands in like Metal Age magazine on tour in the US, I'm thinking the whole big tour thing, but I would imagine it was on a much smaller scale back even then. How was touring?
We definitely began to develop certain, I don't know if you know this, but one of the songs, I wrote a number one song. It was called Telephone Call to Jesus, which, pretty much literally aside from the lyrics in the verse, the melodies and the chorus, words and melody, it's like 75% my tune. Everybody obviously contributed and added their own magic to it. But I just remember that was one particularly that was more almost exclusively originating from my own weird sense of whatever. It was number one in the United States for 6 weeks, but only in Baltimore.
Right.
But hey, it's a number one. But it was only in Baltimore. And had you ever heard of a club called Hammerjacks, which was sort of like a notorious... So we were selling out Hammerjacks, which was a 1,500 seat capacity place, regularly.
Yeah.
When we would go to New York, we would always sell out, needless to say, Chicago, places in the Midwest. But when it was places that were, and we sold out the whiskey 3 nights in a row. There was an audience that was building, but, we kind of, the problem became when the record company, and this sort of speaks to your thing, but the record company, half the record company thought that I was to give credit to for the band. And then the other half of the record company thought Stan was all him. We both knew that wasn't the case. We knew that it was the 4 of us. Yeah. You know what I mean? But we began believing what we were being told by these people. So that caused another division, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was right around that time as well, after the album had come out, that I'd begun talking to Matt Kramer from Saigon Kick. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Who's still to this day one of my dearest friends, and there's very few better singers. There's very few better singers frontmen than Matt Kramer. I came to know him because Life, Sex, and Death played in, I want to say maybe Nashville or Atlanta, one of the two, and we were opening for, maybe it was Nashville. We were opening for Saigon Kick, and we just steamrolled that room. They didn't know what it was. We were in town playing at the smaller room, had a night off the next night. Saigon was in town. They happened to lose their support band. And so the promoter was like, well, if you guys are in town tomorrow, you can play with Saigon Kick. And I remember I was standing next to my guitar tech, Johnny Bullitt. That's back when there were such a thing as guitar techs, or you could afford them anyway, or somebody else was paying for them, the label. Indirectly me, though, the band. And so we were standing there, and Matt walked on stage from, the wing. The band had already started whatever song it was. And then Matt came on to be the singer with the shades and all of that stuff. And this is right when they had that number one with Love Is On the Way. And I was standing next to Johnny, and Matt comes out. And literally as he was making his way to the microphone, I go, I'm going to be in a band with that guy. And sure as shit, like about 6 months later, me and him had a band together, and we'd stayed in touch. And so the Saigon thing kind of started to go south because he wasn't really into the dynamic of his relationship with Jason. I have an entirely different relationship with Jason. I've never been in a band with him. We're just like buddies and know what each other has done. So, but you know what it is? It's like a lot of time, like you see dudes with a chick and you're like, oh my God, that's the greatest chick on earth. You're so lucky. How amazing. And, the guy kind of quietly rolls his eyes or whatever. And then you find out that, she's beating him up or whatever, stealing, whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So each relationship has its own dynamic. So I don't know Jason like that, but Matt sure as fuck does. And that's why he's left Saigon again. But so we began talking and blah, 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 blah. And, things were becoming more and more untenable with Stan. And it was less and less fun.
Right.
You're 25, you're still in your free pass era, right? So you think, it's the only thing the world needs. The one thing the world is lacking is me. So I didn't see the big picture like, holy fuck, we clawed ourselves out of nothing. We don't know anybody or record companies, and we managed to get ourselves a major label deal. And just because you're 25 and you wrote the riffs and, some of the melodies in this band, it doesn't mean you have made it. You know what I mean? So in hindsight, my friendship with Matt is irreplaceable. And I'm very, very grateful that that's become an ongoing decade-long thing. But I would have made greater efforts to sit down with the four of us before we got signed every week. Out of character, the four of us would get together. The guys were staying at the Oakwoods. My girlfriend had moved out from Chicago, so we were staying together. But we would have a meeting at the Oakwoods, which is like the sort of, you rent a studio there. We had 5 of us were living in a studio, in a studio apartment, 5 of us. You walked in, and there was a path in between the 5 mattresses that were laying on the floor that went to the kitchen, which then led to the bathroom. So my girl came out, and we got a place, so I got out of there. So there was only 4 left. And then I think Billy brought his girl out. And then Brian's ex came out and made every single effort to get him back because we were starting to happen.
Right. Gotcha.
That was that scenario. Me and the guys are like, Bri, she called you a loser. She said that you were never going to. Now that we're happening, the thing that she always discredited you for and tried to separate you from, and like, but we were seeing the movie tonight. What do you mean you have to practice? So she came back into the picture. He wasn't over all of the shitty things she'd said to him, and they ended up getting back together, and that got him out. Stan and Kimba, our 5th guy, he'd come out from Chicago. So it was just Stanley and Kimba at the place now. And I'm still in touch with Kimba as well. It was 5 mattresses on the floor, and there was a pathway that was literally like you had to walk like 1 foot in front of the other. And he'd already started going out. Like he would leave at 11 o'clock at night, Stanley would, and he would come back at about 10 a.m. in the morning. So what he would do, and this is a person of wealth, he's a wealthy man, and he would opt to go spend his nights with the homeless people, right? And he would do so fearlessly. Like he would go into the thick of it and hang out with them. I'm like, I guess so. Just wear the suit, but okay, you do your thing, do what you do. And for some reason that was really, really important to him. And people always ask me, was it an act? And then I say, well, every single night at 11 o'clock, he would leave when we were all living together, and he would come back at 10 o'clock in the morning, and so you tell me.
Yeah, you make your own mind up.
Was he crazy? He was rich and he did that. So fuck yeah, he's crazy. Yeah.
That's freaking dedication to the cause right there.
Total dedication. But Chris never did anything by halves. He was a very driven and willful guy, and all of us in the band were in our own different ways. Even Brian, who, whether or not he's a great musician, a great drummer, and he was absolutely a great, great friend. The 4 of us, even when we fought like cats and dogs, and we fought all the fucking time. But even when we fought, we always knew it was us against the world. So while the 4 of us were very opinionated people that wouldn't budge if we believed in what we were saying, if somebody else tried to infuse between us, barring the record company, but this is as we were like leading towards the thing, if you got in between any of us, you had to deal with all of us. That was just the thing. We were brothers, but we fought like brothers. Brian in particular, I wish he'd been more dedicated and less distracted, particularly by this one girl in particular, because I do lay the last session that ever happened with the original LSD, I don't think it's coincidence that Brian had brought his girlfriend down to the session. He didn't necessarily play to the best of his ability. Now, I had sort of realized there was problems, so I had brought one of my best friends, this guy named Eddie Reuter. His band is what brought me to California, a band called Ghost Town, with a guy named Dean Del Rey singing, by the way. He's the podcast king.
Yeah.
He was the band Ghost Town that they brought me out from Chicago to play with them, which brought me out to California. That didn't end up working out. And it was doubly funny because after, they were kind of like, well, we're sort of looking for this kind of thing instead of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, fair enough. I get it, whatever. And I think there was a little bit of static between me and the singer because I wasn't really a pushover because he ran the band, you know what I mean? But he could tell that I don't supplicate that well, I guess. So then I moved down to LA before the guys came out. And then the guys came out and we started playing and they were still looking for a guitar player. And for about 3 or 4 months, then Dean started calling me. And do get hip to Dean Del Rey. He's a great singer. I know him in sort of that Axl style, right? It was the early 90s. They brought me out in like 89 or something. But so that's still kind of what was going on. And so he was in that headspace. And then I went down to LA and we started happening. They were still looking for a guitar player. And whenever he would ask somebody about a guitar player, they would go, you know what? This guy just moved from Chicago to LA. I think he'd be perfect for you. He's in a band called Life, Sex, and Death. His name's Alex. And that happened like at least half a dozen times. So Dean would call me up and he'd go, yeah. So, or maybe it was one of the other, maybe it was Eddie. I don't remember, but my name kept coming up and he was like, no, we already tried that guy. It didn't work out. But so Eddie and I maintained a friendship, which still goes to this day. And Dean and I as well. I mean, we're still tight. And he's also a successful comedian. I don't know how much music he does anymore, but through having played as long as he does, he interviews musicians on his podcast. And I don't know that you would learn anything necessarily, but you would definitely see what one guy did to go from 0 to 800,000 per episode.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm all over it.
As he becomes more successful as a comedian, that brings more people in. As he interviews other people, that brings more people in. You know what I mean? So he's widening his sphere of influence by including all of these different disciplines. Admirable dude. And we had a really cool conversation, along the lines of what we're doing now. And anyway, so Dean Del Rey, he was the singer in Ghost Town. Eddie Ruder was the drummer. I brought Eddie down to the session where we were doing a cover of Is It My Body by Alice Cooper for Wayne's World 2. So Brian came down, I had done what I do, my job, where I said, all right, well, this is the Life, Sex, and Death arrangement, so there was all these weird kind of chromatic riffs in there and weird little things, you know what I mean? Signature-y kind of LSD things. But for whatever reason, he didn't really feel like working, or adapting or whatever. And I remember he got really pissed off and frustrated. And who the hell said that you're supposed to change the arrangement? This is bullshit. I'm like, dude, all of these songs where this is in the studio in front of the guy producing it for the Wayne's, you know what I mean? Just bad timing, bad vibes, bad. This is not how this works. But she'd been clawing him back into
chipping away.
Chipping away. Exactly. So he left the session with her, not knowing that Eddie was an accomplished drummer. And I remember looking at Eddie and I go, dude, are you up for this? Can you do this? Because we'd been working for like 2 hours trying to get a drum take, you know what I mean? And I remember this. And Eddie goes, you know what? I was so sure I was going to end up playing this song. He reached into his pocket and he pulled out a drum key and he goes, I'm ready. And he went in there. And so Eddie was actually the first replacement for Brian. I've never seen Brian at all since then.
Wow.
That was the last time I saw Brian. And we were very, 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 very close. Mm-hmm. We spent many hours, it was our first band, that first band vibe. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I hate you, but I love you, but I know we need each other and there's more about you I love than I hate. And I think I can fix what I hate. Well, that never happens. But I loved him, still do dearly, would do anything for the man. But here's the moral of the story. They ironically, I'm in Phoenix now. Once he left the band, he and that girl moved to Phoenix, right? This is 20 something years ago. 30 something years ago, 28 years ago, 27 something, long fucking time ago, half a lifetime. And I remember as she was walking, and I was I'm still a shitty person on the inside where it counts, but I was much more so on the outside back in those days. And I remember as she was leaving and I waved to her and I said, goodbye. Meaning I'm never going to see you
Yeah.
again. I'm never going to have to pull up with your bullshit again. You're never going to slow my flow down again. You're never going to fuck with my art again. You're never going to waste all of these people's times with what you're doing to my brother ever again. Fuck you, right? And so they ended up moving to Phoenix, and about 2 months later, and this is the part that I would like to make any other musicians aware of. So like 2 months later, I get a phone call from him like, Bri, what's going on? You know, I didn't, like you would. And we're talking. And he goes, well, she left me again 2 months after he was out of the band.
Wow.
And she blew him off to come out here because she wanted a bigger rock star. And when he started becoming a rock star, from the outside perspective, we know what it's like on the inside, she couldn't fucking super glue herself back to him quick enough. And then when he moved to Phoenix, she fucking up and left him again. You know what I mean? And it's just, and I've been there. You don't have to tell me. I mean, the amount of times I go on tour and then those 3 nights where you couldn't get a hold of her.
Yeah.
Right. And you're kind of like, and then,
the cogs start ticking.
And then the gut starts feeling that like, hey, this is that like pit of my stomach betrayal feeling I'm getting. Dude, I've been through that shit so much. And then you kind of come back and, maybe your friends are trying to be like super circumspect, but going, hey, dude, we got to talk. So, or, one way or another, you find out what the hell's been going on. And then you're like, wow, I've spent my whole life trying to not be a cliche. I go on tour and the first thing you try to do is be a cliche.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Shit.
See ya. Yeah, that's not really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I've been in situations, it's really bad. But I've been in situations where rock and roll has destroyed the relationship. Well, as a matter of fact, every relationship has been destroyed by rock and roll. But here's the weird thing. My guitars have never cheated on me. They never fucking talk back when I'm just trying to make a point. I put them in the case when I'm done with them, and they don't like, fucking tell you what's wrong with you. And they don't get pissed off if I play another guitar.
Lovely. I love it.
My music has always been my friend. My music has never betrayed me because I am singularly responsible for the integrity in the music. It's very easy for me to know this feeds me, you diminish me. And here's the other thing. Okay, so I date age inappropriately. We've established that. And as I get older, I find that my taste in women hasn't really necessarily changed. So 27 to 32 is like the sweet spot for me. I think. I don't know if that's true. I'm sitting here by myself taking care of a dog and a mom. But, and I have nothing against these people. I just know that they weren't, it's like we started out this conversation. This is real. This is, and I lead up and dude, right? And you lead all the players, boy or girl, everybody out there that's actually committed to the shit. You have that conversation where it's like, look, I practice. I'm gone all the time. I'm a musician. I'm not fucking rich. There's no limousines in my world. I'm a working musician just trying to stay alive. And I'm very, very diligent and I never miss a deadline. And when I got to fucking work, I work. And until we're spending only your money when we go eat, I have got to work because that's what you're eating right now is my work. And you better fucking finish that salad because I worked 3 hours to pay for that motherfucker, but it's, I can fix him or her and blah, 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 blah. Well, no, because actually I'm really happy with my own company. And I find that musicians, you need somebody who is already complete in themselves. Yeah. Where they don't need you. They want to be with you. They don't need you. So you can share the lives and the accomplishments. So they've got to be really, really busy. They got to be really fucking busy. We're never around. We're always doing something. Mm-hmm. If you had a chick right now, it's fucking like 2 a.m. there or whatever time it is, right? And if it's the wrong chick, it's going to be, Rob, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Rob, we've been there. Everybody's been there. You know what I mean? I don't hear anybody knocking on the door now.
She's fast asleep.
And we're both smiling. But that's the sign of like the right person where you are allowed to do the things that validate you so you can be a happy, better, fulfilled version of yourself rather than the marginalized version sacrifice. I went on vacation once with a girlfriend. Right? It was a week in Mexico. It cost $2,000 in rock and roll guitar player money, that's like $100,000 once you do the conversion, right? Cost $2,000. She'd been after me for years, but come on, let's go. All you do is work. We have to go. Well, the reason I don't go on vacation is because I'm not a millionaire, so I don't think I should really go on vacation until I've got more money because I'm not vacationing. I don't have that life equity. All right, fine. I'll spend $2,000. I'll go to Mexico with you. And there was fun times, but here's the thing. There was fun times. I got to pet a capybara, the cutest fucking animal on earth next to a koala bear, right? And there was good times and blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying there wasn't good times, but I did realize this. I spent $2,000 in 1 week to not do the one thing that I know gives me a sense of achievement and a purpose. So I'm like, why did I spend $2,000 to resent that money when I'm not doing the one thing that I can do for free that gives me all of the good times I'm having here and lets me know I've done something well? There's no such thing as like, I am the greatest vacationer there ever is. I mean, I'm sure there is. You get your deals or whatever, but that doesn't mean it's not like you can't go. Like if somebody goes, you know what, I can squat 7,000 pounds. You don't follow that up with, you should see me drink a margarita. So the life lesson there was our lives essentially are what people pay for.
Right.
In 2000 up till 2019. Up until about maybe even February of 2020, we had the life that people would, and that's like, I had a guy bitching at me because like his shirt didn't get there. Right. And I'm like, okay, first of all, the reason that I'm selling merch is because otherwise I will die because I'm not making any money. Oh, and then I was accused of, and now you ghost me. Now there's been people in England. It took a while for the shit to get there because race riots.
Oh, it's been taking forever, man.
Global pandemic, and Trump's fucking with the mail. And I'm not Amazon. So I said, and then he said, I'm ghosting him, right? And I'm like, you know what? For the $20 that I made off of your shirt, that doesn't give you the right to treat me like an asshole and make judgments about my character. So I said, don't worry, I'm going to send you your shirt and I'm going to assume that you didn't get the other one because I'm not going to make judgments about your character. Ghosting you. Send me a fucking email, a Facebook message. You'll get your shirt. There's people in England right now watching, listening, whatever format we're going out there in. And they will have had to wait because COVID, race riots, political unrest. Relax on the fucking shirt. We're all going to be dead in 3 months, okay? You'll get your shirt before you die.
Relax on the shirt.
It's like...
Unreal.
So anyway, I'm going to send the dude his shirt, but I was just totally pissed off for it. It's like, bro, we're all just trying to figure it out. I'm a musician. I'm not a merchandising company, nor am I Amazon. All you had to do was not lead with antagonism and just go, dude, it's been 2 months. Where's my shirt? And then I'd be like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm making 6 fucking records. I'm dealing with my mom and the dog and, trying to keep a life going here, blah, blah, blah. So all you have to do is remind me and you'll get your shit because I don't want somebody fucking with me. I am definitely not going to fuck with you. And that goes back to the whole physics thing. We are connected.
I love it. Dude, I'm going to let you go. I could talk to you. I could listen to you for hours.
You just did.
Yeah. I want to check back in with you in a few months and I can ask you the other 20 questions I never got a chance to ask.
Well, ideally, Rob, it'll be in person, my friend. One other thing I would like to say, and do your thing. I get it. Just try to not kill my mom, okay? Just don't kill my mom. So when we are told by scientists to wear a mask for each other, I'm thinking about my mom or your grandmother that I don't want to kill. Now, I get tested every week because I actually respect this, and I got a lot of shit I got to do, not the least of which is ensuring that I don't murder my mom. When somebody says wear a mask, it's actually not nearly as big of an infringement on your civil liberties as this 85% of my body I'm expected to keep clothed. Now, if I go out walking in the street with my dick hanging out and my butt all displayed and no shirt and whatever, don't let me into your restaurant because I'm fucking naked. Because I'm fucking naked, somebody's going to call the cops and I'm going to get arrested or charged. Right? So how is from the neck down with all of this cloth somehow not an infringement of my civil liberties, America. But this 3x4 piece of cloth over my face that may very well not murder somebody, that may help not to murder somebody, is suddenly a big infringement on your civil liberties. When you don't smoke your cigarettes 20 feet from the door, when you get a parking ticket, you pay it. You've not even really done anything wrong except been put in a situation by your government where they can steal $65 out of your fucking pocket. Yet you pay it. You wear clothing in public. When you are in a car, you don't demand your civil liberties for not wearing a seatbelt because you can get a ticket for not wearing your seatbelt. And guess how many plane crashes I've been in, Rob? Guess. Just take a wild guess how many plane crashes I've been in my life.
I'm going to say maybe 0.
Okay, yet I wear a seatbelt when I'm on the plane just the fuck in case. So I've tested negative every single week that I've gone to take a test because I'm taking precautions because I love my mom and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that the last years of her life aren't spent dead. Right? I want her life to go on as long as possible. So if this does actually allow that we are not going to kill our senior citizens or our friends with cancer who are immune compromised because of radiation therapy, or one of my friends has a son who's got cancer, a 5-year-old child, wear the fucking mask. Don't kill his child, you selfish, spoiled, entitled, lazy douchebag. Anybody that's wrestling with this shit, which is 7 billion people, you're wearing clothes, motherfucker. Just go one step further so we can get rid of this shit so people like Rob, myself, and all of my friends in this country, all over the world who are musicians, so Phil X can go out and play again, so Matt Kramer can go out and play again, so Ginger can go out and play again, so Danny McCormick can go out and play again, so Therapy can go out and play again, all your favorite bands, so Stitched Up Heart can play again. So One Eyed Dog can play. So everybody, all the everybody's, so we can all go do our thing again. But anyway, Rob, I want to fucking be face to face, and I want to hang out with you.
We got to
do
do
last time, and we can just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
Well, I'm excited to see it, like I say, in the flesh.
Yeah. Promise you. And just let me know, like, if we're not doing it in person, if this thing gets worse and keeps going on, like, if you want to pick up wherever we left off, I'm always available for you, buddy. Always. Nice
one, mate. I want to get onto all the AntiProduct stuff and the stars stuff and all that kind of thing. There's all that chapter.
It's only in hindsight that you actually get to sort of look at what you've done with your life and go, okay, not bad. Yeah. Not bad. Okay. I played with all the living Ramones, AntiProduct, Fan Funding, Life, Sex, and Death, Little Caesar, Shark Island, Ginger, one of the greats. I mean, that dude it's like a fucking 40-lane freeway filled with songs going in one direction with that guy.
Totally.
He always shits on himself as being like a guitar player. And I'm like, dude, I've seen you play. You're a great guitar player, but you know how like Gene Simmons is like, oh, I can't really play. And then you're like, you're sitting with Carol Kay right now. You can play, dude. That's her. She's not going to be sitting here wasting her time from the Wrecking Crew to some clown. You know what I mean? You're bringing something to the table. But so Ginger's the same way about his guitar playing, but he's a really great fucking lead guitar player. Cool note selection, knows exactly what he wants to say. Great guitar player. I remember when AntiProduct, when it was us, Devin, and the Wild Hearts. He did a really cool solo in one of the songs. I forget which one it was, but it's the one that's got the reggae break. But anyway, so he did a great solo. And I'm like, dude, that was a killer fucking solo, man. And I'll go, no, that was a great solo. And look, I'll be honest with you. I'm actually a little disappointed that you didn't sacrifice notes for shapes, because that's what we'd agreed on. Shapes over note selection. But yeah, his drive and his workload, and certainly one of the greatest songwriters of my generation, and talents in general. Drums, the drive, doing a 3-hour fucking set. That's not what mortals do. You know what I mean? And also, who proves better that stable, balanced people don't make good art than Ginger? Can you imagine if he was kind of like dialed and didn't have any problems? The songs wouldn't be those songs. You wouldn't get Sucker Punch or 20. He wouldn't even have felt what it feels like for 29 times the pain. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have been there because he hadn't have felt that stuff. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You know, English
Top
people, their music and art thrives in the environment of repression and claustrophobia and shitty weather, you know, and then that's why.
Yeah, you got it's the weather. That's the tips it over.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, that's like the final, you know what I mean? Where it's like, fuck it. Let's just stay home and write tunes. But that's the only explanation why an island that has the landmass and the population of California has given us the Beatles and the Sex Pistols and the Who and Elton John and the Wild Hearts. And I mean, AntiProduct is an English band. Not that it's as established as any of those other things.
It's a product of the environment.
It's a product of the environment, and it wouldn't have been what it was had it not been, you know, there. But I mean, all of the bands that, you know, Oasis, the Beatles, I didn't say Queen, Zeppelin, hang on, I forgot those.
Keep going.
You know what I mean? From an island as big as California, what do we have? Okay, the Doors, not the biggest Crew fan, you know, lifestyle over music, certainly. Chili Peppers, okay, Jane's Addiction. Who am I missing? Van Halen.
We're just talking California bands.
Well, I'm comparing population and landmass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the Chili Peppers are great, but are they the Beatles and the Stones? You know, not really. They're great. So I don't know what it is, but it's real.
We do all right.
Yeah. It's like, this is where Rob takes credit for like all English music that was ever made. Yeah. I think we're doing okay.
Yeah. Dude, I'm going to leave you. Thank you ever so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your patience and for even asking. Seriously.
Mate. All righty. Love you lots.
You take care of yourself and love you lots too, brother.
But I know it's true. And it's the best day to be alive. Right here in 2025.
You still with us? Holy shit. I'm exhausted, so I don't know how you're feeling. I have so much more from that chat which I can put out at some point, but for now I want to thank Alex for just dumping so much information and insight on today's Straight to Video podcast. I hope some of you who might not be familiar with him before this chat head back and find the Life, Sex and Death stuff, the AntiProduct music, or go check him out live with Enuff Z'Nuff when bands can get back out there touring. I've gone on enough today, but want to say thanks for all the love and support of this podcast. Thank you for the shares, likes and reviews, and I look forward to speaking to all of you again very soon. Look after yourselves and one another.